All right. Well, we are in our last series of the Be the Difference series, wrapping up the fall 2020 semester and saying goodbye to 2020, which I know a lot of us are ready to do. And I'm so excited to wrap up this series with Andy Brophy. He is a senior here at the Spear School of Business. Andy, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm glad to be wrapping it up with you. I didn't know I was the grand finale.
You're the finale.
Oh, that's fun. I'm glad to be here, and hopefully I can give a senior's perspective on things. Being at Spears now for 3.5 years, finishing out in May. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, and I know a lot of people are wondering, what's the experience been like for our college students? And so much is going on in the world right now. You're graduating in May. Tell us, what are you doing after graduation?
Sure. So I'll graduate with my degree in finance. And this past summer, I got the opportunity to work with Bank of Oklahoma, which was a really awesome experience. It was different than usual because it was all virtual. And so for 8 weeks, I was on Zoom calls like this, right here at this desk, all summer long, which I was grateful for. It was not what I expected, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't a great experience. Those good people over at Bank of Oklahoma, you got Emily and Aaron, they were fantastic, helping us out, guiding us. And so that, thankfully, I'm so gracious for this, is starting in July 2021, I'll go there full time in their ACT associate program,
Wow.
which I'm thrilled about. You take time to think about it, and you see so many headlines of people losing their jobs, being furloughed, and then looking at my friends who are also graduating and seeing their situations. And I feel enormously grateful to have a job, and one that I'm really excited about, and working with really great people. It's not just something I found, it's something that is really going to be awesome.
Yes, absolutely. We're so excited. We're so proud of you, Andy, and we know that you're going to go on to do great things for them. I want to come back to graduation and what that will look like here in just a little bit. But first, tell me, what has this semester been like? We're all navigating our first pandemic together. Classes are different. What's that experience been like?
Well, so because I'm a senior, my course load is lighter. So I have 4 courses, which comes out to 12 hours. And a lot of those courses, they're all virtual, but a lot of those courses have pre-recorded lectures instead of like a live Zoom broadcast. And so this semester has been one about flexibility, one that has had that has afforded me a lot of time in my semester. Normally I would spend 8 hours on campus, both with my SI leader position, which was the work I would do kind of in the late afternoon, evenings, and then my courses in the morning. Now those 2 things are both online, courses and my job. And so I'm at home a lot, and that has been good for a lot of different reasons. I live alone, and it's a lot of solitude, but that doesn't have to be a negative thing. It can be a really positive thing. So that's been my semester.
Well, and I love the optimistic outlook you have on it. And
yes.
I know that you've been productive with your time, but first tell me, what's been the biggest challenge with this semester and some of these changes that you face?
With the pandemic, I found that you have to be extra intentional to develop, as a student, especially as a senior. It'd be very easy to coast, to May, to the finish line.
Yes.
And I didn't want to do that. And so you realize that even if there's a pandemic or not, there's some responsibility on my part to go and pursue other education, whether that's listening to a podcast. I like Planet Money. I like the Wall Street Journal's podcast, or, looking up at YouTube videos and still going to all those classes. Reading books has been huge for me this semester, and really trying to expand the resources that I have, because that's going to be how, that way I don't coast, because it'd be very easy just to sleep until noon every day and log on to class if I need to, and then turn in the bare minimum work. And I don't want to do that.
Well, and I feel like a lot of us, are going to look back, hopefully in the near future, that this doesn't go on too much longer, but we'll look back and think, was I as productive as I could have been? Was I able to check in on other people and help other people still? And so it sounds like, you've been doing a lot of that. I know some of us really struggle. Personally, I'm an extrovert, and I need human interaction. And so that can sometimes be a challenge. What's that been like for you? Do you consider yourself to be an extrovert? And are you getting enough connection that you need?
Sure. So that's a great question. I think a lot of the time, living alone this semester, the big thing for me is I've had a lot of time to think. And when you're busy and you're on campus a lot working and doing courses and worrying about homework and tests, you don't really get the time to settle and think. And so this semester, I have got to settle and think. And that's one of those things I've thought a lot about. And what I will say is, I think I can be a good introvert, being alone, filling up my tank. But then when I get in social situations, few and far between this semester, I realize that I talk too much and I start to rant and I run myself out of breath. And I'm like, wow, I must have needed that. And I definitely think if the measure between an extrovert and introvert is where you get your energy from, I think I'm technically an extrovert. I'm sorry, technically an extrovert, because I'm in those social situations and I just feel fired up. It's kind of ridiculous.
We run into that because our kids are home from school and our son is very much an extrovert. And so he's used to talking to his friends all day and he doesn't get that.
Yeah.
So we come home from work and we've been talking on Zoom all day and they just, they just
Absolutely.
stop. So we all have that need to, connect and just converse with others.
Absolutely.
I think that's really funny and interesting. What would you say? It sounds like you've stayed busy. What has been like an unexpected positive thing to come out of this? There's a lot of negatives going on, and it's really easy to kind of get stuck in that kind of negative mindset. But what would you say? What's one really bright spot that was unexpected for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I, of course, do the podcast Just Ideas with Dr. Urich, and he always kind of leads. I took his course also. That's how we got connected. And he leads off his course essentially by saying, the difference between like someone that's successful and that, isn't so, is that they write their ideas down. And his claim is that everyone has a great fountain of good ideas that go through their head, but the successful people write them down. And so again, to go back to that earlier point, when you're in semester and things are so busy, you're on campus, you're at work, you don't really get the opportunity. You don't think about slowing down and capturing some of your ideas, some of your thoughts. And so a positive to all this has been is that I've really gotten to explore myself, explore how I think, where I want my life to go, all these, very large things that we often push away to say, oh, I'll let future Andy deal with that. So the positive has been slowing down, being afforded the time to slow down, write ideas. And through that, I've discovered I have a passion for writing. And so I've begun to write more seriously. I've gotten in touch with an author. He wrote these 2 books, which I read this semester.
Oh, wow.
And he is helping me write a book. And that's what I've been spending, a lot of my time this semester doing, is researching things, writing things, and trying to make that come together in a formal manuscript. And so that the positive for me is I get to pursue a project that I really would have had to struggle to find time for otherwise. And now, classes are pre-recorded. So I can watch a lecture at, 9 a.m., knock it out, or save it till 10 p.m. and knock it out. And then use that other time to really capture some of these ideas and lean into my passion of writing.
Well, and it sounds like these things give you energy, right? I think
Yes.
a lot of times people think, oh, self-development and reading books, and I don't want to do those things. But if you find a topic that you're interested in, I mean, it's fun and you get a lot of pleasure and enjoyment out of it. And it sounds like that's what you've been doing.
It totally is. I used to read as a kid a lot, and then I read in high school for my literature class. And then I kind of took a break off for a year or two whenever I first came to college. And then getting to read books, I worked at Bank of Oklahoma this summer, and one of the projects was that we had to read this book, Multipliers, and it was excellent. And I got to write a little bit about that, which was fun. And then also, because we had an election this year, I picked up this book, and it's How to Choose a Leader. And it's not by Machiavelli, of course, but it's about a professor who studies Machiavelli. And so I got to learn maybe what Machiavelli would have said about this election. So it's been fun to read and then maybe apply that. I've developed political opinions through this. I've developed business opinions, philosophical opinions. And so it's been a journey through reading, and I'm really thankful for that.
Oh, I love that. So as you get closer and closer to graduation, your senior year certainly looks a little bit different than probably what you had planned for it to look like.
Absolutely.
Do you have any worries or concerns about, graduating next semester and going into the workforce with still a lot of the uncertainty that we're experiencing?
Sure. So I always say that I have an amazing job right now. That's being an SI leader here on campus. It allows me to be autonomous, from my bosses, my managers. and it's only 10 hours a week, which is super doable for a college student. And I'm really appreciative of that. But because it's, I'm autonomous and it's all online and it's only 10 hours, it's not exactly representative of what I'll be thrown into come July, right? And so the things that I am kind of worried about or trying to be mindful about really is that it's top to bottom going to be a shift. Right now I don't have, my morning commute is my bedroom's next door. I, wake up, and then I have a Jack and Jill bathroom. So wake up, move to the Jack and Jill bathroom, shower, brush teeth, and then move into the office. It's a pretty short commute. But top to bottom, so my commute's going to be different. I'll have to deal with the stress of traffic, which I don't have right now. And then the work will be longer, more intense. There'll be pressure. I'll be less autonomous. People will be checking in on me daily. And so really, I'm not I think I'll have the tenacity to be able to tackle that, but it's going to be a shift. And I think I have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable at first. I definitely think that's going to be paramount for me as I make that transition to be like, this is kind of hard. This is kind of weird, but it's going to work out, and having a positive mindset through that is going to be huge. So I'm pumped for it.
Absolutely. And anytime, our routine is disrupted, right? And our routines are disrupted all the time. We're in the office or we're going to school, and then, we're going into quarantine for whatever reason. And anytime, our routine it's a lot of stress on the body. So be mindful of that. When you do that transition, give yourself some grace as you go through it. And I know you'll enjoy it. You may be exhausted at first, but that will be short-lived. I'd like to wrap up, Andy. We still have a lot of students, so we are recording this at the start of December. We're going into winter break. We're starting a little bit later in January in the spring. And we have a lot of seniors that still haven't found that right opportunity after graduation. There's probably a lot of anxiety about what the market's going to look like. What advice would you have for them on things that they can be doing or things that they should be focused on to really help ensure that after graduation, they're headed on a successful journey just like yourself?
Actually, if I may, Evan Davis, I took his BADM course. I think about him often and what he said, really his life experience. And you know him better than I do, correct me if I'm wrong, is that he did a variety of different careers and jobs before landing at OSU, where I think he's happy that he's landed, of course, he's kind of settled in a little bit. And so I always think about that because I think the problem with a certain narrative in our American culture is that you go to school, you get your grades in college, internship, job, work there until your midlife crisis, and then good luck, right? Buy a motorcycle maybe. And I look to Evan, Mr. Davis, as an inspiration because it's okay to not have your career immediately after college. Yeah. There's going to be shifting, and I would presume that Evan's pretty happy, right now, and that's in his happy. Yeah, you better hope so. And his happiness does not derive from his career, and that's the problem with another narrative is that you have your job and you have your money now and your salary, and that's what feeds into your happiness. And clearly, and you're shaking your head, yes, that's not what it is, and that may seem like you get the job, you get the money, and you're happy now, and you're good. It's time to figure it out. And so what I guess I would implore people to do is just be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And maybe it's not this season for you, to have it all locked down. But that doesn't mean that you can't go and, work in a restaurant for 2 years, be a server for 2 years, go get your master's. It doesn't really matter. Just so long as you're mindful of the fact that you're working towards something greater and that your happiness will never come from the job you do or the degree you earn, but from a lot of other things, and I would encourage people to be comfortable in being uncomfortable as you venture off into the new world, but take it with a grain of salt because I haven't done it yet.
No, I think it's great. It's great feedback and great advice. And, I can tell you that I've never felt like I've worked a day in my life because I've gotten really interested and passionate about the things that I'm doing. Some of it was not fun work. Looking back, I'm like, gosh, how did I enjoy that job? But I'll wrap up with a tip, and it goes along with what you're saying and Evan's story and some of the jobs that he did. He worked for Nintendo in Seattle for a little bit and all different types of things. But Joe Easton, he says, just start somewhere. just start somewhere, and it's going to lead to connections and mentorships and opportunities that you never thought were possible. Just start somewhere. And so I think that's great advice. And I know all of our Sphere students are going to be successful, and we're here to support every single one of you along the way. And Andy, if you have that midlife crisis, maybe, early, feel free to give me a call. I'm happy to help. Anything I can do.
I will. Thanks, Abby.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time, Andy. It's great to connect with you. I'm so excited about, what these next several months are going to be looking like for you. So please keep us posted and enjoy your holiday break.
I appreciate it. And likewise to you.
All right. Thanks, Andy. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.